أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessing of the arrival of the month of Ramadan. I send my tabrik, I send my congratulations to all of you at the baitulqayem community and all of you at the Bait-al-Asr community. It is an honor for me to address all of you during these next 2 weeks, and obviously it would have been such an honor for me and a pleasure for me to be there in person in New Jersey, as I mentioned in the intro message that was sent out, I think last week. Would have been nice for me to be part of my baitulqayem family, also meet up a few of my Bait-al-Asr friends as well, and spend these next few weeks in this glorious month together, breaking our fast and busy in worship and ibadat. But unfortunately, this year it is a unique month of Ramadan, and I'm with you for the next 15 nights, inshallah. We do have some unique programs, and inshallah I will allow the programming committees to announce that in their own respective ways. But today being the opening lecture of my 2-week series with all of you, I wanted to initially set the ground and set the environment up for the arrival of the month of Ramadan. Like I do every year, no matter where I travel. Last year I had the honor of being with all of you for the first 2 weeks, and this year also, albeit through an online platform. The month of Ramadan is upon us, and once again, this opportunity for us to look inwards. These next 29, 30 days will act as a reminder for all of us of what we, as the human being, is capable of doing. I have so many things to say tonight, and I just want to make sure that I get them across. We will keep our discussions half an hour to 35 minutes at most to ensure that everything is proper. And it's important that we initially remind ourselves, myself included, of things that we've heard several times in every year. As the month of Ramadan comes about, we always remind ourselves of these things. But we have to now enter this month with the right spiritual state of mind, to be able to remind ourselves this is not just 30 days of us going hungry. It actually is a training ground with the effect and the impact of shaitan lessening, with us now strengthening in terms of our worship and our subservience to Allah. We all have to be reminded of the fact that everything throughout the year that we couldn't do, all of a sudden now we can do in the month of Ramadan. So the first point I want to make is that this is an act of worship, fasting itself, that does not have an outward form. Number one, it's an inward spiritual act of worship. What I mean by that is that if you look at Salat, for example, from the furu' ad-din, from the branches, and from the far, or from the secondary acts of the deen, primary of course being the asr or usul or the roots, the secondary being the branches or the actual acts of worship, which are 10 that are wajib upon us. Some of them have a physical aspect to him. Salat is a very physical act of worship. There's prostrating, there's bowing down, there's kneeling, there's raising your hands up, there's standing, there's etc. etc. One can see this person is physically now praying salat. Hajj is a physical act of worship. You actually travel to a certain city. You do tawaf around the Kaaba. You do sa'i between Safa and Marwa. You walk, let's say, to Mina, right? You spend your night in Muzdalifah, etc., etc. There's a physical dimension to it where one can say, yes, this person right now is busy what? Performing his or her Hajj. But the act of fasting doesn't have a physical dimension to it on the outward, on the exoteric or the zahir of the human being. Meaning if someone was to walk into your house, you can't tell if they're fasting or not. It's not written on their forehead, nor is there any sort of physical sign outside of them to tell you this person is right now in the state of fasting. Meaning what? It's a very inward, batini, esoteric, internal movement towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now why is that? Well, there are several reasons. The first reason is that we have to understand, and we get this from the khutbah of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. A portion of the khutbah I shared with my baitulqayem family last year during these exact days, and one that we have to constantly remind ourselves of. This is a khutbah, the last Friday of the month of Sha'aban, that the Prophet specifically read in front of his followers to prepare them for the arrival of the month of Ramadan. Has to be repeated every single year, has to be told every single year, specifically on the first night or the first day of the month of Ramadan. Okay? He says, Ya ayyuhan nas, innahu qad aqbala alaykum shahrullah bi barakati wa rahmati wa maghfirah. O mankind, right? Now upon you, or the month of Allah now is approaching you. Iqbal is coming towards you now, right? It's a month of what? Barakah, rahmah, maghfirah. Blessings, mercy, and compassion and love. Okay? Meaning these are the things Allah chose now through His Habib, the Holy Prophet, to describe the month of Allah. Right? Anfasukum fihi tasbih wa nawmukum fihi ibadah. The breathing or the breath of the sa'im, of the rozadar, of the one who's fasting is what? Is tasbih of Allah. The nawm, the sleep of that individual fasting is what? Is ibadah, is worship. Now the question that I remember I posed specifically on this very same day, last year in baitulqayem, and one that I want to remind myself of and all of you, is that, does that mean that our breathing and our sleeping is different in the month of Ramadan? Yeah, we might sleep in phases, in doses, a couple of hours here, a few hours here, maybe an hour in the daytime, who knows? But sleep is sleep. Right? Breathing is breathing. It's not like we're breathing differently than month of Ramadan. No. And yet Allah specifically, through His Habib, in this khutbah, is describing our breathing as tasbih, as the glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our nawm as ibadah, our sleep as worship. Why is that? Because while our breathing and our sleeping is the exact same in terms of how we sleep or how we breathe, what is different is us. We're the ones who are breathing. It's not that our breath is different, it's the one who's breathing is different. It's not our sleep that's different, it's the one who's sleeping is different. Right? So naturally when your entire existence and wujud is completely in realm or in line with the subservience of Allah, anything that emulates from that existence becomes ibadat and tasbih of Allah. Think about it for a moment. This is that one act of worship that we're about to enter in. And I don't know about all of you, but I am very, very excited, for lack of a better word, on the arrival of this month, in this year, in this pandemic era. And again, I use that word excitement, not to celebrate a pandemic. There are people who are losing their lives, losing their jobs, people who are struggling financially. I don't suggest for a moment this is Eid. No, it's difficult. But at the same time, and I'll get to this point in a moment in my lecture tonight, at the same time, this idea that we now are at home for the next 29, 30 days, and suhoor and iftar and doing ibadat and the dua together as a family unit should be something we are, like I said before, excited about. Okay? But again, this is that one act of worship. Child, woman, man, young, old, doesn't matter. They feel this connection to Allah that cannot be described by any physical words. In fact, it's described by their actions. Right? These are fasts that are not as long as the July and August fast, but now, of course, we're in April, and in about a few years we'll be back into March, but still, these fasts are still well over 12, 13 hours long. Right? Which means that there comes a moment where you now face the pangs of hunger. You know, you have to get over that hump. We all have that hump that we have to get over during the day. Once we're over that hump, we're home free towards iftar. But going over that hump where the pains of hunger are there, that's a difficult task for us. But yet you see a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 17-year-old, younger individuals, even though they are screaming for food and water, their body is, their soul says no. Right now we are in line with that, with what? With the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nowhere, at least I don't think, nowhere, anywhere, does a young 12, 13-year-old girl who has now just turned baligha, let's say, this is one of the first few Ramadans where everything is wajib on her, does she feel the need to break her fast? Yeah, she's struggling, she's tired, she's low on energy, she might feel a little bit faint, she might lie down for a bit, this and that. But the idea of me sneaking a sip of water, sneaking a bite to eat here and here, for example, nowhere does that happen. Why? Because even though the body screams for what it wants, the soul what? The soul is hakim over the body. And that's why when you look at the very famous verse of Surah Baqarah, the one I had the honor to recite in the khutbah, Allah says, look, we have written for you fasting. Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Meaning what? Kutiba ya'ni wajaba. We have made fasting now wajib on you, just like those before you. Not so you can lose weight or get close to the Quran, or no, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So you can be God-centric, God-conscious. Right? So everything you do now, you're thinking about Allah. Think about how many times the next 30 days we will say, oh, if only I wasn't fasting, I would do it. Or because I'm fasting, I won't do this. Or watch this, or say this, for example. Meaning that fasting, the state of fasting becomes a force field, a shield around us from those normal sins that we commit almost on a daily basis, whether with our eyes or our ears or our tongue, whatever the case may be. We are so conscious of everything that we look at, everything that we say in the month of Ramadan, that is a training ground, as one of my teachers used to describe it to me, a training ground. Just to tell you as a human being that all those other months of the year, the 11 months of the year where I'm not able to do anything else, all these things are hard. Your body is screaming for this and for that, and sometimes we give into it. That same body is screaming for food at 4 p.m. The same body just wants a glass of water at 5 p.m. And you say no, you distract your body, you go for a shower, you take a nap, you do something now to distract yourself from what? From the desire of food and water. Where is that every other part of the year? Why in the month of Ramadan? And yes, you might sit there and say, oh, because Allah now has favored us in the month of Ramadan. It's possible. You might sit there and tell me that, oh, Sayyid Asad, it's because of shaitan being chained up doesn't mean he's not effective. Shaitan being chained up is metaphorical, of course. It's metaphysical in nature, meaning that his impact on us has lessened. Not that he's now saying, oh, it's Ramadan, okay, I'll go easy on you guys. No, quite the contrary, in fact. Sometimes we have in a hadith that says that when a person now sets out for a journey towards Allah, shaitan now ups his game. Shaitan now gains some taqwiyat and some power. Shaitan now, this is now where he ambushes them. Where? Siratakal mustaqim, on your path, Allah. So this idea that shaitan is chained up does not mean that shaitan's on vacation during Ramadan. No, in fact, he's actually working very hard. The difference is that his impact on us is lessened. Why? Because we're different. We're different. All those things that I couldn't do, Maulana, for 11 months out of the year, for some reason, like a switch turns on, I can do in the month of Ramadan. The same 24 hours that would not let me do anything in terms of the Quran or getting up early or this and that. Now all of a sudden the exact same 24 hours is there for you in the month of Ramadan, but your entire day is different. Think about it for a moment. Right now, hopefully, a lot of you are working from home, I hope, in this Corona era. But for those of you who are not, who have to go into the office, I mean, sometimes, I think about the mu'mineen in various communities, at least, pre-pandemic. Think about what they were doing. You are going to work normally, let's say from a 9 to 5, okay? Now it is more of a 9 to 6, 9 to 7. You get home at 6, 6:30 after a long day at work, okay? Putting up with all sorts of questions from your coworkers, right? Why aren't you having lunch? Oh, you're fasting. What's fasting? Not even water? Not even water. Are you sure not water? No. Gum candy? No gum or candy. What? Yeah, no gum or candy. Right? You come home now, you're exhausted, you're tired. It's still a good 2 hours, maybe 3 hours until iftar. So what do? Maybe catch a nap, maybe grab a shower, maybe read some Quran, and then you go in the evening to the center. There you put up with some speech by some alim, usually me, you have to bardash and put up with, and then you have iftar. And after iftar, you're exhausted. You read dua after that, you come home. By the time you're in bed, it's 11:30, 12 almost. You get up at 3, 3:30 let's say, 2:33. So after 3.5 hours, you're up again. You eat, more ibadat, salat al-fajr. You might go back to bed around, 4, 4:35, back up at 7. So your sleep is off. Everything is off. But yet those same 24 hours, the same 24 hours in there, you were able to read some Quran, get up half an hour before Fajr, let's say, for example, go to the mosque and still survive and do your daily work in school, albeit on a very, very condensed sleep schedule. But for 30 days, you're able to do it. Okay? And maybe that's why the impact of shaitan is different, because we are so conscious of what we're doing. And maybe that's why it's an internal act of worship. Right? This whole battle that's happening inside of us is happening inside of us. Right? There's no outward expression of fasting. Okay? So the first thing I want to mention today as an opening lecture, and we'll get to my topic tomorrow, inshallah, but the first question, the first issue I want all of you to understand is that you are about to enter this month a brand new person, a person you thought you could never be, things that you will do you thought you could never do. All of a sudden now there's a switch turned on now, and God can be seen everywhere. What we look at, what we listen to, what we say, what we think, etc., etc. Okay? So many questions I get. Does this break my fast? Does that break my fast? Does this break my fast? We're so conscious of how to brush our teeth. Whether I swallow my saliva, I looked at this, I didn't pray salat on time. Does this break? We are so worried about breaking the laws of Allah. Ekash. That same level of awareness happens all throughout the year. And that's precisely the message of the month of Ramadan. Is for God to show you, look, I don't need to force shaitan on vacation. Be loose like he has been and still have very limited impact on you. That's the potential you have inside of you. That's the beauty, the jawhar, the jewel that exists inside of you. And that's why the month of Ramadan, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, is part of the piety building process. Okay? So initially in this opening discussion, understand the jawhar and jewel and diamond and gem inside of you. The month of Ramadan, what extracts and shows you, look, you're able to do this. No one else. That's point number one. Point number two is some practical steps. Okay? Now this brand new Ramadan, no doubt we miss our centers. We miss our masajid. One of the beautiful things I remember growing up in Toronto and being involved in the center in the month of Ramadan was just seeing everybody every day. There's something about that communal iftar, sitting down on a dastakhan, sitting down on a sufra, sitting down at a table and breaking bread, watching people now celebrate this act of worship that I got through one day of worship, now 29 more days to go. All these things are there. It's beautiful. And that's not there for us. But what is there for us now is some dedicated family time in this month of Ramadan. Okay? I will not get this Ramadan like this again. Where now for the next 30 days, it's me, it's my family. It's me, my spouse, and my kids. It's me, my spouse, and my parents. It's me, my spouse, and his parents or her parents, or my siblings, or whatever the case may be, right? Whatever the case may be, we have this opportunity now as a family unit to move towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those things that would exist inside of our centers, inside of baitulqayem or Asad, we have to now take that and apply it inside of our homes. So I'd like to remind you of a few things that I'd like for me first and all of you to do as well inside the home. Number one is that if you are somebody who would like to take part in the Quran circles inside of your respective centers, bring that Quran circle inside of your homes. Okay? I cannot urge enough and tell you enough the beauty of the fact that when this family unit, when this home now, when the walls of this home hear the recitation of the Quran, Hadith says that it shines bright like the stars in the night sky does. Okay. The first thing I'd like for all of us to do is establish a small mini Quran circle inside of our home. Sit down, the 4 of you, the 5 of you, the 3 of you, the 8 of you, in a small circle around a table. Let's say, for example, I'm not asking you to read 1 juz a day. No, let's not make it a burden. 2 verses, 3 verses. If you're not comfortable in Arabic, read it in English. Doesn't matter. If there's possible for you to sit there and ponder and maybe strike up a discussion on a few verses, then so be it. We don't need to be a mufassir of 20, 30, 40 years in the hawza to discuss all of the verses in the Quran. Some verses are very open. The Quran says itself that there are some verses that are muhkam, some are mutashabih, right? Some are very open in their meaning, some are allegorical, meaning they require someone with deeper knowledge now to pull the actual meaning. But some verses are very clear to us. If you come across those verses as a family, stop and discuss. Okay? But let's make sure that we cultivate a family relationship with the Quran this month of Ramadan. It's a very intimidating book for a lot of us. I don't know Arabic, Maulana. Then on top of that, I have this English translation inside of my home, which has, weird English, dine and thus and thou, and no idea what that means. On top of that, I'm always told by speakers like you that don't pretend like you know what the Quran is talking about. It has 70, 700 levels for every verse, etc., etc. So what do? I leave it there until I'm forced by my mama or my baba to sit there and recite it, or until somebody dies or somebody gets married. Then the Quran is inside that silky, beautiful wrap from India on the highest portion of my shelf, or sometimes I need a ladder upon a ladder to get to that Quran. No, bring it down, unravel it, open it up, and begin to extract lessons from this very book. This is the month of the revelation of the book, the instantaneous, the nuzul al-dafi'i of the book of Allah. If we're not going to cultivate a relationship with the Quran in this month, when will we do it? And yes, that requires us not only to read it, but to understand it. To sit there and say, look, the Quran openly talks about this. It's a living miracle, a miracle that transcends so many generations. Like I mentioned in the intro speech, so many generations. And it's almost as if every generation is saying this book was revealed down for us during our time. We live in a very difficult era right now, an era of a pandemic. Even before that, there were social norms. Even today, there are social norms that are destructive in nature, but they're normal every day, almost as if we are immune to them, not understanding the devastating reality of those norms. The Quran has come down for us to ponder on the words of Allah, read the words of Allah, study the words of Allah, so that those things that are every day that we become immune to, we actually understand this is a destructive force inside my society. Meaning what? We become the ahle basir. We become insightful human beings. Eyesight, insight. Okay? And the deen says very openly, you can have 20/20 vision, but when your eye insight is taken from you, you are considered to be blind. When you're blind, you can't see anything. You're in complete and utter darkness. The first thing I want all of us to do is to cultivate a relationship with the Quran. Open it, guys. Read it. Study it. Spend some time with it if you can. But don't make it a burden. I'm asking you, please. Okay? Couple of verses here and there. As a family, you will see, as a unit, you will flourish towards Allah. Number one. Number two, Jamaat prayer. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. One of the bright spots of this pandemic era is that all of us are at home. Most of us are at home as a family. And I have heard beautiful stories that, Maulana, we have begun now to read Jamaat at home. nothing makes me happier. I'm telling you, nothing makes me happier. Because, again, when you pray together as a unit and you move towards Allah, you guys move as one soul towards Allah. I'm tired of hearing the husband is going this way towards God, the wife is going this way towards God. The wife is flourishing towards Allah, leaving the husband behind. The husband doesn't want to fly with the wife, for example. The wife comes to every single program in the center. Where's the husband? No idea. Doesn't want to come. Or the idea that the husband now is going every day to Karbala, every year to Karbala, and multiple hajjs, and the wife not once, right? I'm tired of this. The idea is you as a cohesive collective unit are traveling towards Allah. Imam Ali described Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra salamun alayha as what? As a hamsafar towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As somebody who is now beside me, traveling towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's precisely what a family should be. A family should be driving towards one journey towards Allah. Right? If there is a mountain to climb, all of you are climbing it towards that one area. Part of that is to worship together. Part of that is to have the husband and the father lead the Jamaat. Let him have that. Let him have that ihsas zimmadari, that I'm standing here now. My son is beside me. My wife and my daughter are behind me. I'm leading this caravan of ibadah towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm the leader. They're going to follow me now, right? That hissim mas'uliyat, that sense of responsibility. Sometimes the husband and the fathers need a jolt nowadays. Right? There's too many stories I'm hearing that all of the burden of the deen, tarbiyat, and all that of the kids are on the shoulders of the woman. And she's just getting too exhausted. Everything is on her. The cleaning and the cooking on her. The kids' Quran class on her. Going to BQ or Bait al-Asr on her. Right? And meanwhile, it's the husband and the father and the man, the house, that should be leading that charge. This is the month where now we, as the men in the house, should be leading that charge towards Allah. Part of that is to lead your family in the prayer towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If not all the prayers, one prayer. Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, whatever the case may be. And then to sit at the table. Can you imagine? Sit at the table and open up your fast. Pass around a box of kujurs. Have, let's say, a sip of your chai, right? And, come downstairs and asking your kids, what do you feel like for iftar? Mama, I want some spring rolls. I want some samosas. I want some pakoras. All these things. And there's frying happening inside the house now. There's chopping inside the house. The table is being set. Such a beautiful environment. Yes, we miss our centers, no doubt. But now to take that center and have it within our four walls, I think there can be beauty upon beauty. Eid will come and we'll truly, truly enjoy Eid this year as a family. We'll miss, of course, Salat, assuming that in this month nothing will change in terms of the situation. We'll miss the Salat, we'll miss the hugging, we'll miss all that. But at least together as a family, we'll say for the past 30 days, 29 days, we worshiped Allah together. Woke up together, ate iftar together. Right? Prayed Jamaat together, read the Quran together. Okay? That's point number 2. Point number 3, as I just fixed my timer here, I want to make sure I don't go over. 30 minutes is all that I will ask you to bardash me for. The last point I want to make, and I'm picking on my dads a lot, is that one of the challenges of being home for the next 29, 30 days is that iftar has to be prepared. Okay? Now we've had the luxury for the past few years, or every year almost, to have a few families come and sponsor the iftar. Okay, beautiful act of worship, and we come and we kind of eat what they bring us. Okay, so all we really have to do is worry about suhoor. Suhoor usually is a bowl of Fruit Loops and maybe a scrambled egg, or maybe just a coffee and something else. Nothing big. But now to feed the entire family every single night for iftar is a challenge. This is where, as men, if you are not involved in the kitchen inside of your home, please get involved in the kitchen inside your home. There are some men, mashallah, who are right in there, who cook actually better and more than their wife does inside the home. But for you, who does not like to get inside the kitchen, I ask you, please, support your wife. Help your wife out. help your mother out, let's say, as the sons or daughters inside your home. If that means you're chopping onions, that's great. I would love to see nothing more than see Dr. Asad Sadiq wearing an apron, let's say, for example, chopping up onions, putting on some besan, right? Some nice gram flour, and making pakoras, let's say, for example. I would love nothing more than Dr. Musa Jafri to cut some potatoes, some aloo, put them in besan, and fry some aloo ke pakora. That would be an amazing sight for me. Right? Beside him is his family, beside him is his wife, right? And they're helping out. If you can't, you don't even know how to turn on an oven, that's fine. You can sit there and cut some fruit, right? You can peel an orange or something, can't you? Right? At least stand beside her saying, can I clean up around you as you cook? But the idea of sitting on your throne saying, oh, iftar tayare, that's not going to cut. This is a family month of Ramadan now, right? Sponsors are there, inshallah, and we'll recite the Fatiha for the sponsor at the end of the majlis, but at the end of the speech. But we have to understand this is a family unit. She's also fasting. She's also tired. She's also maybe worked all day as well, right? So if you're not able to, let's say, even know where the tail goes and how to turn on the oven, fine. Okay, you don't get it. You don't know. I don't know sometimes. But at least we can sit there and say, how can I help you? If she says, get out of my kitchen, that's fine. But you offer that help as well. Okay? You offer that help as well. Practical tips. We start from today, inshallah. Okay? And the last point I want to make is sadaqah and charity. Okay? The importance of giving in this month of Ramadan has always been there, but specifically now, in this day and age, in this COVID-19 era, where the people in India, Pakistan are struggling. And yes, I am specifically talking about people in that part of the world. I'm not saying that people in the U.S. are not suffering. Our own families, sometimes they're on food stamps. I get it. But I think the situation, relatively speaking, is worse off in India, Pakistan, especially in India, where I'm hearing it's a complete lockdown. There are people who absolutely depend on that 1 days of work to bring home that 1 days of food for the people. When that work is locked down, food is locked down. So how are they going to open their fast? Allah knows. I don't know. If we can help out our people, whether you have family or not in those regions, sending some money, figuring out a way to kind of get your money on the ground there, helping out people, sponsoring iftars for those people there in that part of the world, I think would be amazing. Remember, you give one, Allah gives 10 right back to you. Let's be conscious of the fact that while we are sitting there, we have a spread of food on our table, taking pictures, this grand moment, that grand moment, this picture, portrait, the lighting, don't touch the food, wait till I take a picture of it, and we spread that all over the world. There are people who don't even have a bite to eat, a morsel to eat at iftar, and they've been fasting for just as long as you have. These are things that we have to be a little bit conscious of. Let's just not abide by the individualism idea that who cares about them. I'm enjoying my time for the month of Ramadan. This, one of the beautiful philosophies of fasting is that we have a little bit of ihsas, a little bit of a consciousness towards those who don't have as much as we do. But yes, we know at 8:17, 8:43, 9:01, 8:02, I'm going to have an abundant amount of food waiting for me. These are people who don't have that luxury. So my brothers and my sisters, as an opening lecture to all of you, a very simple lecture to all of you, getting yourselves ready for this beautiful month of Allah. Please, I ask you, embrace this new normal. Work on building your family. I ask my fathers, take the lead inside of this house, either in the kitchen help out, or on the musalla lead, or in giving charity lead. If you can ask your kids, can you find me a good charity, a good organization that is legitimate, that is actually getting money to people, India, Pakistan, Yemen, Palestine, Pakistan, Syria, whatever the case may be, then so be it. And we give as a family, knowing full well that what we have is an abundance, and there are people who don't even have a morsel of food to eat. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept our qaleel efforts, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to give us that tawfiq to truly benefit from this month of Allah, to build together as a family towards you, to forgive our sins, accept our amal, allow us to stand beside the Imam of our time when he arrives, inshallah. In the end, if I can ask you all to please recite a Surah Fatiha for your marhumeen and for mine, the Shahada, and for the marhumeen of tonight's sponsors as well, inshallah. Fatiha. Bismillah. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.